Once you have selected your project, you will come to the analysis window. The analysis window, you'll notice, is exactly the same as the analysis window located within the control side of the software. To get acquainted with the analysis window, let's take a look around. There are 4 different views within the analysis window, the first of which, chromatogram view, we're looking at. Once you've selected your project, you will come to the analysis window seen here. Now this analysis window is absolutely identical to the analysis window in the control side of the software. To get acquainted with it, let's first open some chromatograms by selecting File and Open Chromatogram. What you'll see in this preview window is each of the executed sequences, as well as the number of chromatograms for each one. If you scroll over, you'll also see the date and time. So let's start with pHs and the first chromatogram. To the right, you'll see file information, as well as chromatogram information. And on the bottom, you'll see different channels, whether those are different wavelengths or different detector signals, as well as the contour plot for the PDA. So let's open this chromatogram by clicking Open. There are 4 different views in the analysis window, the first of which you're looking at is the chromatogram view. Within this view, you can scroll through the different detector channels individually. You can stack the different detector channels, or you can overlay all of the channels. The second view is the PDA view. Within the PDA view at the very top, you have the extracted wavelength chromatograms. Below that, you have the contour plot, and to the right, you have your data spectra. If you right-click on the chromatogram and have XY cursor checked, we can now simply left-click on the contour plot, and we'll have our spectra appear on the right, as well as that particular wavelength plotted on the chromatograms above. As you see, we can click through the contour plot at different places and plot different wavelengths and get different spectra. In addition, if we would like to extract a particular wavelength, we can hit the Extract Chromatograms button, select chromatogram for channel 11, and type in whatever wavelength we would like to extract. On the right side, you have a little more information, particularly what the wavelengths are of each channel. The third view is the diagnosis view. In the diagnosis view, you have your HPLC system information, as well as the system diagnosis results. The number of detector lamp hours, pump plunger strokes, etc. are listed here. And to the right, you have the pressure profile of your pump and the temperature profile of your oven. And the last view, which we'll get to as we continue to analyze data, is the recalculation sequence. So those are the 4 views. Now when you have a chromatogram opened, you'll see loaded chromatograms and the one we have opened here, as well as the project name and the date and time to it. Below, you have the control method, so the conditions that were run. If you double click on the control method, you will always have the control parameters listed with the data, so that you can always come back and repeat it should you need to. So let's start the analysis by learning how to integrate. There are 2 types of integration: auto integration and manual integration. We'll start with auto integration. To do so, click File, Method Editor, and Peak Method. You'll also notice all of these icons are listed right up here. So that same peak method is right here. This is our control method that you'll remember from creating a control method. And this is our acquisition sequence editor, which you should remember. So again, let's start with peak method. If we click on that, we have a preview chromatogram, and we select the particular channel we'd like to use. At the bottom left, we have our default criteria for integration. To test these parameters, simply click the check button, and you get a preview of what the integration would look like. If these particular parameters work for you, you can simply save these parameters and apply them. Otherwise, what we will do is use the parameters set for this particular channel, channel 1. The parameters have slightly changed here, and now if we check, we'll notice this is not a peak of a known compound. Also within this peak editor, if we click on peak, we can determine the different methods for calculating resolution, number of theoretical plates, as well as the symmetry factor. Once we have set the proper peak integration parameters under the General tab, and we'd like to apply it to the chromatogram in the background, we simply click Apply. Now if we close this chromatogram and go back to channel 1, we'll see our chromatogram has been integrated. Once the integration has taken place, we'll also notice in the peak table below, we have our retention times, our areas, our heights, our area height percent, and height percent as well. And we can scroll down or make this window a little bit larger. Now within this table, we can actually show additional values as well. If we go to View, Peak Information Items, we can see all of the items shown currently in this table are listed to the right. If we'd like to add any additional columns, just simply select and hit the over arrow. Once you've done that, such as resolution, hit OK, and now the resolution column has been added, as well as the value for that. So now we've learned how to auto-integrate. One thing we'll notice is that currently there's a star next to our sample data. That means that our data has changed or been manipulated as we've integrated, and we just need to save it if we like to keep this with the results. Otherwise, we can right-click and close, and it'll warn us, do you want to save? And in this case, we're going to say no so that we can do manual integration. In your case, if you do want to save, simply click yes. So now let's open that data again. PHs, number 1, open. And again, that integration did not carry on because we didn't click save. So let's learn how to manually integrate. Manual integration is very simple. This little manual peak process button, if you click that, you again have a preview window. All of our integration buttons are to the left. The first one we're going to use is Add Peak. Once we click Add Peak, our cursor turns into a pen and is on the baseline and will not leave it. We simply click once on the left side of the peak, once on the right side of the peak, and click OK, and it integrates. Do so for all peaks you like. Once you're happy with that, simply right-click, and your cursor is free. Now, should you need to zoom in or get a better view for proper integration, just left-click, hold, and drag. Now we can zoom in as far as we'd like to integrate, and we can continue. Add peak, click on the left side, click on the right side, and OK. Right-click to free it up, and right-click to zoom back out. So if you recall, when we applied the auto integration, this peak here was not a known peak. So let's erase that one. The red X button, Delete Peak, will allow us to do that. Once we click on it, you'll see our cursor turns into an eraser, and once we're over a peak, it highlights it yellow. Simply go to your peak you want to erase, left click, and hit OK, and our peak is gone. Now we can right click and free up our cursor. If we zoom back in on our peaks of interest, we may want to slightly shift our integration. To do so, we have Shift Peak Edge. Left click on that, and now our cursor becomes a hand, which will open once we're over a peak integration mark. For instance, let's change this one right here and drag that out just a little bit. Click a second time and it frees it up. Maybe this one will drag a little bit. Click once, drag, click again, and it frees it up. And again, right click to free that. Right click one more time, and we'll zoom back out. If you're happy with this integration, simply hit the check mark. If you're not and do not want to carry it over, hit the cancel. We will hit the check mark. And as you see, our integration has carried over to our actual data. And once again, we have a star. If we want to save this data, click the Save button. The star goes away, and now our integration, should we close and open this chromatogram again, will come with it. One additional thing, if we go back to our peak method, and we open the peak method of choice, channel 1, and now we apply this, as we did previously. Again, we'll have that star as we've changed it. We can save it, and now what we'll notice is our peak method conditions are saved with the data. We can double click on these and find out what parameters were used.